Okay, guys, Chapter 3, Organizational Behavior, Professor Didia. Perception, Attribution, and Learning. Chapter 3, I hope you enjoyed the first two. Sponsored by Brooklyn Body Gear. Best underwear money can buy, full disclosure, my company, and we're going to talk about everything that goes on in my company from an organizational standpoint, organizational behavior standpoint, which will hopefully will help you. Okay, let's start. This is going to be a quick chapter, so you'll like it. So remember, we're going to talk about perception. The idea about perception is that we all perceive things differently, and our perception affects our actions. And because everybody perceives things differently, our actions are going to be different, and we're going to try to understand this a little bit now. Okay? So, what is perception? Perception is how you select, organize, and interpret information from the world around you. How you select. Everybody selects information differently. Everybody organizes it differently. Everybody interprets things differently. In the world today, everybody interprets any action differently. We already know, and I spoke to this point in the last chapter about the word disability. Everybody has a different, to me, disability does not mean anything. To others, they perceive, they organize and interpret that word as offensive. So, remember, imagine this in a particular work environment. Maybe you can't use that word. I don't know. But like I said, everybody has a different idea of what perception is and how you respond to that information around them. Some people will be offended, some people might not care. And I'm just using that particular example because we spoke about it. Okay, what do you see here? Some people see a chalice or a cup. Other people see faces. What do you perceive first or second? What I love about some ads today, and unfortunately, because I'm doing a video, I really can't show it, but go look on Google for logo ads about, put in negative space logo ads. Federal Express has a triangle in it. So remember, this is all about perception. They do this purposely. As a matter of fact, if you look at Brooklyn Body Gear, people don't notice this right away, but there's two B's. I know we spoke about this, two B's, but only after. There are some people that actually never perceive the two. They go, wow, I can't believe you're right, there's two B's. Because I made it look like it's one B. But it's really two B's, right? To see the small b and the big B. Perception. Okay, and of course it has a meaning, which we discussed. So, some people see the face, other people see the chalice. Okay, people know, it was on Instagram 100 times, about the color of that dress. Was the dress blue or was it pink, right? Different perception. So, attention and selection, selective screening. There's so much information, there's so many cues, there's so much going on. We have such a short attention span today. As a matter of fact, they say millennials, Generation Y, has a 12-second attention span. Gen Z, younger, has an 8-second attention span. There's so much information, so we have to select. We have to do selective screening. Select out at information. So how do we do selective screening? Everybody does selective screening differently, right? Two types of selective screening: controlled processing and screening without conscious awareness. Sometimes it's unconscious or conscious. But remember, there's so many cues out there, people notice different things, okay, and select different things, okay? Remember, the idea of impression management is that we behave in a certain way to give the right impression to someone. So, people who know me before, the impression that I give when people first meet me the first time is that I'm outgoing, I have a passion, I have an outgoing personality. That's the impression that I want to give the first time I meet someone. Other people are more quiet, but impression management, systematic attempt. We do this purposely. It's an attempt to behave a certain way to give the desired impression of themselves to others. Okay? When it's done well, if you do it well, impression management can get you promoted, right? To put the right impression. Hopefully it's real and not transparent. I can usually tell when someone is transparent, especially my students. But when it's real, and when it's sincere, advancement in jobs and career, you can get good, your relationships will work out well. If you're doing it right and you're doing it from the heart and it's more sincere, it's actually a good way to be successful if you do it right, okay? Stereotypes. We all know what stereotypes are, okay? Identify with a group of category. You identify everybody with a particular group. Just this one person. A stereotype's good? I'll ask you. Is there such a thing as a negative stereotype? I don't know. We talk about this in class. Asians, what's the stereotype of Asians? That they're smart. Would that be a negative stereotype? It sounds like a positive stereotype to me. Being smart sounds like a positive stereotype. But stereotypes, when we identify someone with a whole group, I'm sure many Asians will say, we're not smart, we have that stereotype, so maybe they have to work harder. So remember, individual differences are obscured. We really should judge people by who they are, not by their whole group. Of course, we have to try to eliminate our own personal biases with stereotypes. Here's common stereotypes: racial, ethnic, gender, ability, age stereotypes, right? Ability stereotypes, gender stereotypes, religious stereotypes. Of course, there's religious stereotypes as well. That's not up here, but these are some common stereotypes. Halo effects. I love this idea about halo effects. Halo effects, when you attribute one aspect of a person to everything that they do. So, to a situation is used to develop an overall impression just from one thing. So, an example of a halo effect would be a guy comes in on time every day to work, right? He wakes up early. He happens to be just an early riser. He comes to work early, on time. But everything else about his work is horrible. Halo effect. Maybe he'll get a good review because they're judging his overall work performance on one aspect. Okay, on one aspect. Okay, that's the halo effect. Of course, we want to try to eliminate some of these things. So remember, these are all about perceptions. What's good, what's bad. So keep this in mind. These are some perceptions that people have. Okay, another one. Selective perception. We talked about this before. Selective screening, selective perception. We only single out a situation that is consistent to what we believe and what we value. We might pick something. I might go because I have such an outgoing personality. I might, let's say, go to a party and I'll select. It's my selective perception. Who are the ones that I want to talk to because they would have a certain. Maybe we have the same personality, which might be more fun to hang out with. In my MBA program, there's a lot of selective perception. There are people that are very transparent, and they selectively look for people. They selectively look for people that are going to help them with their work. Of course, it's a little transparent, but in real life, we naturally, subconsciously or unconsciously, we perceive our own value, what our own values are, our own attitudes, our own needs in others. Okay? Projectionism is taking our own feelings and projecting on someone else's, right? Our own personal attributes and projected on someone else. Okay, I happen to think I'm a nice guy, so what I do is I usually project that nice attitude on other people. I'll always believe the other person is going to be nice. And many times, it might not necessarily work. Imagine the opposite. Someone who is a sleazy, disgusting person and is always cheating people, they're going to think everybody else cheats because they project those attributes on others. I take the opposite route. But remember, everybody comes from a different place. Once again, what's the word? Fit. We're thinking about how all of this is going to affect the work environment. Okay? How different types of people going to interact with each other and bring the company up. So, next. Reinforcement. So we're going to talk about reinforcement. Okay, reinforcement, the administration of a consequence as a result of a behavior. Consequence is not necessarily a bad thing. It could be a good thing. So we know reinforcement. There's two types of reinforcement. We already know what are they? Positive, right? And, negative. Right? Positive and negative reinforcement. So, let's go back here. So, administration of a consequence as a result of behavior. So we're going to talk more later in the chapter about this. But there's positive and negative reinforcement. But remember, you're giving something. The thing about reinforcement is this. Do not forget this. You're always giving something, okay, as a result of behavior. Positive, you're giving something good. For negative reinforcement, you're not taking, you're giving something bad. So we're going to talk about this a little later, but keep that in mind when it comes to reinforcement. Reinforcement, you're giving. Giving something good or giving something bad. to change the behavior or to reinforce the behavior. Okay? So, casual conditioning, classical conditioning, sorry, not casual. Classical conditioning, learning through association, manipulation of stimuli. We know Pavlov's dog. You probably learned this in psych, right? He rings the bell and he salivates because he sees a steak. Okay? Classical conditioning, right? Okay? So look at this one. Stimulus, something that incites action and draws forth a response. Stimulus, response, right? So look at this one that we talked about here. A person sees the boss smile and hears versus criticism. Okay? He feels nervous and grits his teeth. But then he sees the boss smile without saying anything and he gets nervous. Okay? Maybe when he sees the boss smile and says something bad, whenever you see him smile, oh man, he's going to say something bad to me. There's a stimulus response, right? Classical conditioning. Pavlov's dog. Operative conditioning, learning by reinforcement. So look at this one. Okay, person works overtime. He gets the boss's praise. So he works overtime again, right? From operative, learning by reinforcement, right? I'm going to work late. The boss said I do a great job. I'm going to do it again. I know in my position at Kingsborough, anytime I do something, the boss, my chairman, would always say great job or whatever. And of course, it makes me want to do another thing and another thing and another thing. And I do a lot of, I'm heavily involved in the service to the school. I'm sure one of the reasons is, on a subconscious level, because I get so much positive reinforcement and because I get the praise. Okay? Let's see what we have next. Law of effect. Okay, behavior that results in a, simple. Law of effect. Behavior that, when results in a pleasant outcome, is going to be repeated. Something good happens. Remember, no different than stimulus response. I do something, I get a good outcome from it, I'm going to do it again. Very simple. Okay, law of effect. Right? Behavior that results in unpleasant is not likely to be repeated. This type of thing, right? Think about this with a child. They put their hand on the fire, right? Let's assume they're trying to go to the fire, right? And the parent hits their hand away, right? Then there it is. There's a law of effect. Unpleasant outcome. I'm reaching towards the stove. I'm going to get a hit. Okay? It's not likely to be repeated. But a positive thing, right? You get, the kid gets a good mark on homework or something, and, oh, this is great. Here's extra allowance. That would be positive outcome. It's going to be repeated. Oh, I'm going to do better on the next test, better on the next test, better on the next test. Okay? Law of effect. Positive reinforcement, once again, administration of positive consequences to increase the likelihood that you're going to do it again. You come in on time for a week, and the boss says, you know something, great job, you come in on time for a week, you're going to repeat it, right? Or employee of the month club or something, or you just even a praise, whether it's intrinsic or extrinsic, which we're going to talk about shortly. But the point is positive reinforcement. Something good, you give something good, it's going to be repeated. Okay? There's two types of positive reinforcement. You can do continuous or intermittent. Continuous. Every time you do something good, you get something in return. Keeps you doing it again. Okay? Intermittent, rewarded only once in a while. Which is better? I don't know. But I will tell you, when I was working at Macy's, they used to want us to open up credit cards for people. Obviously, they make a lot of money on interest on the credit cards. Even though a job description was we had to open up credit cards, they still gave some positive reinforcement because they knew that it takes time to open up a credit card. Maybe you have other things to do. So they created this positive reinforcement. Every time you signed up for a credit card, you signed someone up for a credit card, whether they were approved or denied, they would give you $3 coupon to use in Macy's, what they call Macy's money, $3. Used to come out of the register right away. Denied or approved, everybody got $3. Continuous. Right away you'd get it, in immediate. What would that make you think? $3? I'm going to sign up another person. I'll sign up 10 a day, I'll get $30. This is what people think. And of course there were contests for this, but remember, Macy's was doing this, A, to make you happy, but at the same time, to help the company. That was continuous reinforcement. And of course, sometimes you think to yourself, oh, I want to do it, I want to do it, I want to get another $3. We used to have stacks of this, what they call Macy's money, like this, because we used to open all the time because of this continuous reinforcement, okay? Negative reinforcement uses withdrawal of negative consequences to increase the likelihood of the desired behavior. Think about this for a second. It's not so easy to understand negative reinforcement. So, you do something bad, we're going to give you something bad, right? But to stop you from doing that bad thing, we will take away that something bad so you won't repeat the bad thing. So, like it's also known as avoidance learning. I want you to understand this because people get confused between negative reinforcement and punishment. Punishment is a consequence that stays. Negative reinforcement is give something bad. I'll give you an example of this. So, when I was a kid working in high school, I used to work as a salesperson on the sales floor, and I would be able to make commission. Sometimes I'd come to work late. Whenever I came to work late, I got negative reinforcement. They said, you come to work late, they're going to give me a consequence. What did they give me? They gave me, you cannot work today on the sales floor, you have to work in the warehouse and make your minimum wage, as opposed to being able to make commission working on the sales floor. So they gave me this negative consequence, right? Negative reinforcement. So what did I do? Now I'm working in the warehouse. What they pretty much said, exactly this. Withdraw negative consequence. Tomorrow, Morris, if you come in on time, you go back to, we take away this negative thing and you go back to selling. So I'm going to avoid coming in late. I'm going to avoidance learning. I'm going to avoid this negative consequence by coming in on time. So what did I do? Once I got into the warehouse, that was it. I said, that's it. I'm going to come in on time every day. Negative reinforcement. They gave me that negative thing to prevent me from coming in late. Okay? That's negative reinforcement. Punishment is administration of consequences, so it won't be repeated. It looks very similar, right? But think about punishment is you're giving it and keeping it. Okay? So it's not like tomorrow it's going to change. Negative consequences could be a demotion of my position. What if I came in 5 times late? They say, you know something, Morris? You're not even working on the sales floor anymore. Here's your punishment. Your punishment is 2 weeks working in the warehouse. That's it. Then you can go back. So think about it. Punishment is giving it, keeping it. Okay? Not to withdraw it the next day. Do we understand the difference here? Or a demotion, or a salary cut. This is punishment. Negative reinforcement, not salary cut. If it's only for the day, maybe you consider it negative reinforcement, where tomorrow will take away that if you do this action, right? So understand, administration of negative consequences to reduce the likelihood of it being repeated. Okay? Increase the likelihood, so what's the difference? Increase the likelihood of the desired behavior, we're going to take away that. Here, we're going to give you this so you don't repeat the bad behavior. You see that? Okay? So, you're in the warehouse for 2 weeks. Almost like a, punishment. 2 weeks. Okay, this is bad. So, understand the difference. Okay? Understand the difference. Next. That's it. I told you it was going to be easy. Quick chapter. Guys, I love you all. See you on chapter 4 very soon.